Well, we are finally showing some love to the great state of Connecticut. Coach Carrezola, thank you so much for joining us. Glad to have you on the podcast today.
I appreciate you hitting me up and us making it happen. This has become a morning routine for me to be able to listen to different coaches, and I'm doing it driving to work and driving back. So I'd love to be able to join the crew here for a night and get on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Well, like I said, we've had coaches from a lot of different places. This past episode, we had a coach from Southern California. We've had coaches from Canada and everywhere in between. But I don't think that we've had a coach on from Connecticut yet, at least coaching in Connecticut. I know you're from Pennsylvania. We're about to get at it here in a second. So let's start there. Let's talk about just your football journey up to this point. You're a defensive GA there at Uconn, your alma mater. Walk us through a little bit of your football journey up to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, about 20 miles north of Philadelphia there. So I grew up on cheesesteaks, tasty cakes, and soft pretzels. But and I also grew up about 10 minutes away from Sesame Place. So, Coach, I know you got a few kids. So if you ever need a place to go, you can come up to Sesame Place. I'll tour you around good old Langhorne, Pennsylvania. But I grew up in a competitive household. I had a older brother. He played Division I college football at Rutgers, and I had an older sister that played college lacrosse at Holy Family, and now I have a younger sister that's getting ready to run track and do cross country at Westchester, Pennsylvania. So, we were a household that just competed in everything we did, whether it was, who could get the best grades, who could have the best games, or who can get to the dinner table first. So it was always just kind of a competition in everything that we did, and as well as a mom and dad that, I've been blessed to still have in my life and that loved me. And I also have my grandma grow up with us. But, it's just been a blessing to be able to grow up in a competitive household that was full of sports and good times and fun. But my football journey started at Neshaminy High School, played for Coach Mark Schmidt, who's in the Pennsylvania Football Coaching Hall of Fame. And from there, I kind of grew up watching my brother play. My brother was a bigger deal than me coming out of high school. He was the guy with all the offers in the Northeast, and me, I was more of the underdog that grew up playing tight end and ended up playing defensive end in college. So, I didn't have as many offers as my older brother, but I always had that mentality of the little brother that's just trying to prove his older brother not wrong, but show that I could play too. So I ended up having a really good high school career my senior year, won the district championship, but we lost to St. Joe Prep, who's now kind of turning into a national school there as a private school. But after high school, I committed to the University of Connecticut. It's kind of a different story. I kind of just went up there for a camp and then played offense and defense at the camp, and Coach Paul Pascaloni offered me a scholarship. And then by about 2 weeks later, I drove up with my family and fell in love with the school, fell in love with the facilities up here and the atmosphere and, how the coaches were going about it. And so I went and committed earlier my junior year, around that June time, that first week in June during camp season, and kind of just wanted to focus on my senior year. But, so I was very fortunate to be able to come up to Uconn. By the time I came up to Uconn, though, it was a different staff. It was Coach Bob Diaco, and I played for Coach Diaco my first 3 years here at Uconn. And I also played for Anthony Poindexter, who was a defensive coordinator here, and now he's at Penn State, and as well as Coach Vincent Brown, who was a linebackers coach here, that's now defensive coordinator at William Mary. And those are, those are some names that were huge into just legends in defense, as players and as coaches. And to be around guys that played the game at such a high level, for me, it was something that, as I was going through, I wanted to play in the NFL my whole life, but I knew that at some point I wanted to become a ball coach too, just for what they did for me and in my process and my journey. I knew I wanted to be able to do that for another kid. So that's really the reason why I started coaching. I mean, those guys had huge influence on me, and as well as the next staff. My senior year, Coach Randy Etzel came in, and as well as Coach Dennis Danton Carter, who's the defensive line coach here today still, and Coach Etzel's still the head coach here today. and they've both had a huge influence on my life as well. And being able to, maintain those types of relationships has helped me, and really being able to grow as a coach and as a player. But from my senior year, I did my pro day and everything, and I was fortunate enough to be invited to 2 NFL rookie mini camps, one being with the Kansas City Chiefs and the other one being with the Washington football team. And now the NFL is a tough league to stick in, so unfortunately I didn't stick. But just being able to go and train and practice with those guys for a couple of days, I was able to pick up a lot. And so I was training in Tampa, Florida with Yo Murphy down there at ASPI, and that's a big training facility that a whole bunch of Buccaneers train at. So I was able to really work with Warren Sapp for a little bit, as well as Booger McFarland and other pros or ex-pros that came back and trained. I was able to learn a whole lot about pass rush. So at the same time I was playing, I also knew that I was going to be learning a lot. So when I didn't stick in the NFL, I came back to high school. I was the big old high school sub, teaching gym class, sweating in between periods, playing basketball. But came back, and I was fortunate enough to have Coach Steve Wilmot, who's the head coach in Chamonix High School, bring me back, and being able to help coach the defensive line, defensive coordinator Neil French. It was awesome being able to come back to the place that you grew up loving and that help you make you the man who you are. So I did that for a year while still training, trying to play. I ended up playing the Alliance of American Football. Played for the Salt Lake Stallions for a year. And that was an awesome experience, playing for Coach Dennis Erickson, who's obviously a legend, and being able to learn from him and his crew as well, and kind of grow my network a little bit at the same time, because I knew I was going to get into coaching after. So, and it was one of those things that everyone on the team pretty much had NFL experience. Some guys had NFL rings. Some guys were playing in the league for 4 to 5 years, or they just got cut from the league. And I was kind of a guy that, I had my not even a cup of coffee. It was more of a shot of espresso in the league. But I was kind of a guy that just I was hard to cut, because I knew I like to think that I knew a lot of the playbook at different positions. So I was playing 3-4 outside linebacker, 4-3 defensive end, 4-3 outside linebacker, kind of a guy that made special teams his best friend. So I knew I wanted to play as long as I could, and that's what I tried to do. So continued to play in that league, and then, unfortunately, about week 8, they brought us into the hotel, and the league had folded. We kind of just found out, and coaches are upset and players are upset, but that's kind of the life of it, and turned into you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Get one night at the hotel. Got to find a flight back from Salt Lake to Philadelphia and see what you want to do from there. And it's kind of crazy timing, because I'm looking on my phone and I see that Uconn football needs a defensive line graduate assistant. So I kind of thought, maybe this is the time for me right now. And it was. Before you knew it, I was on the phone with Coach Etzel again. And just to have him being able to bring me back, come in the program and learn as much as I have so far, it's really been a blessing. So I've been here since 2019, learning from Coach Dot, as well as Coach Spanos, who's our defensive coordinator. And, I've been here since, and now just continuing to learn as a coach and grow as a coach is something that I continue to do.
Well, that is a really an unbelievable journey, to bounce around from 2 different leagues like that, coach on the high school level, and now wind back up at your alma mater there at Uconn. I've interviewed, several guys who are currently GAs at their alma maters, or they have been a GA at their alma mater. And I always am interested in hearing the answer to this question. What's been the biggest adjustment for you when it comes to, being a player at Uconn, now transitioning to a coach at Uconn? How have you had to adjust your way of thinking, your mindset when it comes to that?
Yeah, so coming in, I knew right away that some of these guys that are playing right now are guys that I played with as well. So I really wanted to establish and take this kind of with the maturity level of understanding that I'm a coach now, and that's that. I mean, when I made that decision, I knew that, this wasn't these guys, they're great guys and they're my brothers at the end of the day, because we went to the same school, but, this is a coach-player relationship all the way. So I think with that mentality, with me coming in that, I kind of gained a lot of respect of not only the guys but coaches as well. I think that's a big part of it. And then outside of that, really as a player, you understand football and can talk football, but you don't have to draw the diagrams. You don't have to make the PowerPoints and everything. So I made Visio my best friend the past 2 years, as well as PowerPoint, Word, and Excel, all of it. That's something that I've really been grinding on since I got here, and I continue to try to get better at.
And so now we were talking before we started recording here. We were kind of talking about just a little bit about the last month and what that's been like for you and really college coaches across the country. It's been an absolute whirlwind. Wrapping up camps, official visits, things like that. So talk about what this last month has been like for you, and what some of the challenges have been, and really just what that's been like. Kind of give us a behind the scenes look at what it's been like for you guys. Now with the dead period being over at the end of June and wrapping up this month of camps and official visits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this month has been awesome. It's been exciting, especially because, in Connecticut, there with COVID and everything, there were a whole lot of more mandates and laws than other areas. So we've been very strict about it. And obviously we hadn't played in this past year. So being able to get guys up here on campus and on visits and camps has been great. I've been sunburnt. My throat's a little scratchy at the end of June, but it's all been worth it. But really, we've been doing a bunch of visits, and as a GA, I'm the guy that drives to the airport. I think TSA kind of knows me on a first name basis now at Bradley International there, but we've been able to get guys on campus and get a couple commits as well, and it's been great. I'm a guy that obviously I've been here, so I'm giving out the campus tours. I'm giving the facility tours and doing things, pretty much anything to help our recruiting department and our staff get more guys here at Uconn. And as well as, it's just been exciting coaching guys at camps. I mean, being able to work with defensive linemen up in the Northeast that want to get better, that want to get some exposure and getting them through drills and our indie drills and showing them how we practice as a college has been awesome. I can feel the excitement kind of getting up here in Storrs, Connecticut, just with football around the corner, and we haven't been on the field in a little while now. But I know the people in Connecticut are excited, and I know that our staff and our players, especially who have been putting in the work this whole time, have been excited, and as well as our freshmen that just came in this June as well. So it's been pretty a little chaotic, but with planning and everything that our staff has done, I really feel like we've done our best job to put our guys in a place for success, and it's just been an exciting June this past month.
So I'm curious, when you talked about how you guys weren't able to play last season. So now as you look ahead to this next season, how hard or maybe easy is it? What's it like as you try to evaluate what type of team you're going to have, what your needs are going forward as far as recruiting goes? Like, how hard is it to judge your team without having that, this past season to go off of?
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, we were a program that were playing in 2019, we were playing a good amount of young guys. So not having this season, it was kind of a deal where those guys kind of were able to get in the weight room still and get bigger and get stronger, as well as being able to do spring ball. We were able to get spring ball in as well. So we're just excited for the development of our guys as well. But obviously missing that key piece of playing in games is something that we missed this past year. But, we just tell our guys we control what we can control at the end of the day. And that's huge for us and our guys in general. But I know that they're dying and, they're scratching at the claw to get out in the field. You can see it in the way that they work and the way that they train. And us coaches are we're pumped to get our guys out there in 2021.
What's the one thing, if you could maybe single it out to one thing, what's the one thing you missed the most about actually playing football? I guess just to maybe even broaden it out about football season in general. What's the one thing you missed the most after not playing this past year?
I would say the game itself, man. I think just seeing our guys out there, because these are guys, football is one of those sports that you train every day pretty much, and you get 12 opportunities if you're lucky, without injuries or anything. And just to see our kids being able to get out there and cut it loose, I think that's the biggest thing that I kind of miss, and just the atmosphere and the game here in Connecticut. But those are just little things that I miss like that, and for our guys to, be able to get rewarded and get a chance and an opportunity to go win football games. But, now we just announced that our stadium's full capacity now, so we're ready to get going.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you guys, as well as, most college programs and even us, like you said, we did get to play, but it was heavily restricted and it just wasn't the same. And so I think we're all looking forward to, to those full stadiums and being able to get back to some sense of normalcy, especially when it comes to coaching and just having a football season. Well, let's transition now and talk. We're talking about just some fundamentals of defensive line play and how you guys are coaching up your defensive line there at Uconn. So I know you have a presentation, so I'll let you pull that up, and then we'll let you go through that, and I'll ask you questions as we get through that. But, just kind of talk to us a little bit about your defensive front while you're setting things up, about your defensive front and what techniques you guys are playing and things like that.
Absolutely. Just want to make sure you can see my screen here for a sec.
Yeah, we're good. Yep.
Awesome. So really I like to talk about the characteristics of great defensive linemen and have our guys really understand what that means. And the first one I have up here is motor. And, if you listen to Keep Your Pads Down, I got a pretty certain chance, I feel like you probably know what a motor is. But to us, it's really playing with that possessed mindset at all times and going from all the way to the whistle. I mean, if you're able to play with a motor on every single down, it's going to be contagious throughout a football team. And that's the type of defensive lineman you want. So, which really leads us into our next point is violent. You got to be a violent guy to play defensive line, especially here. You're going against bigger bodies every single play, and we're telling you to knock back and reset the line of scrimmage and put your hand in the dirt. You got to look forward to that type of action. And, that's something that we constantly preach is violent hands, hips, pretty much violent in everything that we do. Because right now, when you're 18 to 22 years old and you're playing college football, that's really the only time that, you're being coached to be violent. Anytime after that, you're probably going to have a conversation with the law that you don't want to have. But, and which brings us into our next point, and that's going to be our toughness. And to me personally, I always believe that when you're evaluating a football team, and especially a defense, and you want to evaluate their toughness, the defensive line is definitely going to be one of the first groups that you look at. And you want to have guys that are both physically and mentally tough because, again, you're going against bigger guys, and we're telling you reset the line of scrimmage. And guess what? They have more of those bigger guys most times, whether you're playing 3 down or 4 down defense. And in doing that, we tell our guys that we try to be as high twitch as possible because we want to come off and we want to strike guys first. And so that's a huge characteristic for our defensive linemen is being able to strike guys first and being twitched up because we want guys that can beat guys across their face, whether we're stunting or come off on 3rd down and beat them with speed because that's going to cause problems for our offensive game plans and offenses in general. And then finally is prepared. I think every defensive lineman, it's a characteristic that you work on every day needs to have a plan for success. And in doing that as a coach as well is you got to make sure their plan for success is on the field, but as well as off the field. I mean, I see it in guys is, whether they're trying to gain weight, lose weight, or push weight in the weight room, you got to have a plan to achieve all of your goals, especially in the classroom as well. And being here at the University of Connecticut, that's huge in the classroom for us because, we're a top 25 public university the past 10 years. So our guys need to make sure they're prepared to have success in what they do. And then this goes into the next point, which is going to be the fundamentals of what I see in great defensive linemen. And this is kind of what we're going to talk about more here tonight. And my first one is get off / take off. And to me, I know there's coaches that teach different techniques. To me, to keep our guys playing fast and physical, I like to kind of simple some things down for them. So our get off technique, that's going to be our 1st and 2nd down run technique, our run base technique, our get off stance, and our get off in general. And then our 3rd down, now we're thinking speed. We want to get after the quarterback. That's going to be our takeoff. So those are the 2 type of techniques that we continue to teach. Then going to our next point is going to be striking and separating. And we got to be able to strike and separate off these offensive linemen because that they want to hold you. That kids are going to try to complain about holding, but we don't use that as an excuse ever. Because if we're playing with great technique, then we're able to strike and separate off of these guys, which leads us into our escape, which is our 3rd point here. And escaping, I like to think it's kind of like the sexy part of defensive line play. You always see it on the defensive line videos and everything like that, blowing up on Twitter. And it's obviously a key essential piece to get off blocks and free yourself up and go make plays. So we always teach escape. And 4th, I have pass rush, kind of its own thing. I won't get too much into pass rush tonight because I feel like I could probably make this whole presentation about pass rush if I'm being honest. But pass rush is kind of its own deal there. And then 5, I got aggressive finish. No matter what we do, we want to have an aggressive finish. And we want to make sure that we're dictating the terms up front and playing with that style. So for our alignment, shades, and gaps, this is kind of like the great debate here. To me, a 0 technique is head up on the center. A 1 technique is the shade of that center. 2-eye inside shade of the guard. 2, head up on the guard. 3, outside shade of the guard there. 4-eye being inside shade of the tackle. 4, head up on the tackle. 5, outside shade of the tackle. And now 7 is going to be inside shade of the tight end. I just grew up on that, to be honest. I'm adjustable and flexible with all of this stuff. I've been in different schemes and systems that call things different ways, but as long as the defensive line knows, the terminology, then I think you're going to be successful. And then 6 being head up on the tight end and 9 being outside. So in terms of an alignment terminology and in relation to a man on, our base alignment is going to be your near foot through that inside shaded number. So that being, if I'm going against the left tackle here and he's number 57, my inside foot is going through that number 5. And then as we look at different things like running back alignment, whether it's deep or he's flat or he's to or away, and as well as our tight end alignment, if he's off the ball, if he's on the ball, if he's deep, if he's looking back, we can always dictate our alignment, and that being a tight alignment, having our near foot splitting both of the numbers now, therefore being tighter to our offensive lineman, or a loose, which would be more for our guys when the back is away and you're thinking the ball's coming towards you. And that's going to be our near foot outside of that number 5. And then a wide, and now we're thinking, third down, getting after the quarterback, go ahead and widen yourself out. But that's just the common terminology that we use for our alignments and our shades. Moving on from there, we can get into our get-off stance. And our get-off stance, to me, it's feet. Your feet are going to be shoulders width apart. This is our first and second down stance. Our back foot toe is going to be to your front foot in step. So it's only a little bit of a stagger. We want our guys bending at all of our power angles, our hips, our knees, and our ankles. You're going to put your ball hand down, and we call it a credit card alignment from the ball. So I should be able to swipe a credit card between your fingertips and the football. We want to take up as much ball as we can. That way there's no wasted movement or there's no stepping underneath ourselves, and we want to be able to gain a little bit of ground there. We're going to have a flat back with our eyes up, eyes on our key. And then we want to generate enough weight on our down hand where our heels are going to be off of the ground. And we're going to have that off hand ready to strike with our elbow off of our knee. I think that's huge. I think you find a couple of guys when they get tired, they put that hand, that off hand down or away, or that they're resting it on their knees. I like our guys ready to strike every play. And for you listeners here, I got a picture of J.J. Watt, kind of dialed up to it right now. And you can see he's a great technician in how he plays. But the move in our get off in general, everything that we're going to do, we're going to trigger on movement. That's how we operate. We know that our guys need to be twitched up, and it's something that we're always teaching and preaching. But we're going to trigger on movement in all of our drills, and we tell them to have an explosive first step in our get off, and we want to quickly get that second step into the ground. And the reason for that is, one, so we can change direction according to the blocking scheme, whether you're getting, whatever blocking scheme you're getting. And if we're making contact on that second step, we want to be able to have our both feet in the ground, generating our power and being able to strike guys. But we also tell them that body angles at 45 degrees, striking from low to high, getting off low to high. And we want to be able to maintain a flat back. And the name of the podcast here, you got to be able to keep your pads down, man.
That's it.
No doubt. You got to be able to play with great leverage. It's a game of leverage. And in our get off, we want to shoot our hands, elbows tight, thumbs up, hands above the eyes, and keep a strong base in the run game.
All right, Coach, while we're on get off, because there's been a lot of talk, on D-line coaches' Twitter this summer, it seems like, just about about coaching get off, and are you coaching a step? Are you coaching hips and hands, and letting a step follow? So where do you guys fall on that? Are you stressing a 6-inch power step or a short power step, or is it, hey, fire your hips and hands and your step will follow?
Yep, we're more firing our hips or hands and stepping and follow. we want to make sure our guys are playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. You know, we're a one gap defense, and we want to make sure that we're winning that gap and resetting that line of scrimmage back. So we just make sure that second step is getting quickly into the ground. We don't tell them, you know, we don't want our guys thinking out there, oh, I got a power step here or anything like that. We want to kind of naturally build that within our individual. And in doing that, you know, we have our guys go ahead and shoot that imaginary target with our elbows tight or thumbs up. And we'll get a little more into that in our strike. But yeah, that's pretty much how we teach it. We have our guys go ahead and get off that football and you know, be able to cause havoc back there. Can't see it here, Coach, but
Okay, yeah, no, that's good. That's all. That was the only question I had on that.
I got you. Awesome. So moving on to our get off drills, how we practice it is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put that football down and get our guys into our 3-point stance, our get off stance, and fire off the football and do exactly that and shoot our hands. Every time we go off the football, and just, you can see here, just a quick 4-yard burst. But it's an important 4 yards. We want our guys being able to play with low pad level at all times. There you go, shooting our hands inside and winning that battle of that hands. What this really progresses to is a line drill that we do. And to me, this is one of my favorite drills. So line drill, we're doing that same technique. We're coming off the ball, shooting our hands, hitting that imaginary target. But now in the line drill, coach can give you a low hat to the right, a low hat to the left, and that's going to indicate run to the left or right. And we want to be able to plant off that opposite foot, get flat, and burst. We want our guys being able to get to that football. And then for our front side end and tackle, they're just turning and running. Our backside tackles turning and running. But that backside end is going to work a shuffle technique, reading that quarterback, just like he would in the game, and then go ahead and burst the ball. They can also get a pass read, which would be a high hat. They're going to hit a quick pass rush move and finish with a hips through reach towards that ball and the quarterback. They can get a screen, which would be a high hat. Then I'll point them off in a different direction. And then they have to plant off that opposite foot, turn and run to the football just like it would be in a screen. As well as draw, I can give them a high hat and then a low hat. And now they're playing off that outside foot, turning their body towards the line of scrimmage and really retracing their steps and going ahead and just like they would in the draw game. But right here's the drill. As you can see, guys are shooting their hands, playing off of this low hat right here and turning and running. And, you know, I'll just let this thing run a little bit, but you see all of these reads in the game, and that's what we try to really imitate is our individual period is going to represent the game. Right here, here's the quick pass. One guys are hitting the pass rush move and then reaching. But we want to make sure that our practice habits become game realities. And that's something that we constantly think about in our individual period as well. Right here, here's the quick screen. You see high hat, point, plant, and then go finish. And then how does that, you know, always think, how does that impact the game? You know, this is our first drive against Indiana here on the road, Big Ten, big school. I think this is the third play right now. And they're going to go ahead and the ones listening, they're going to read our defensive end. And they're kind of running a little RPO here with a Y flat. And our defensive end's to the boundary side with the Y. And they go ahead and they arc him. And he's going to hit his quick shuffle read. And he's going to see that the ball's thrown flat. And now he can go ahead, get flat, and then go ahead and make a play on that tight end. You know, we strip the ball out. Now we're on the road. We just got the ball, and the rest is history. We want to go ahead and set our guys up to score, our offense to score. But, I mean, those are the type of plays that are exciting that can get defenses rolling, especially when you're on the road going against Big Ten opponents. Next one, we're going to be looking at our defensive tackle right here, Lua Ugwe out from Alberta, Canada. He's a guy that's, you know, we love to have him. He's continuing to grow and expect him to have a pretty good year for us. But you can see it's a quick screen here to the boundary side. He goes ahead, he sticks that outside foot in the ground and goes and makes a play. And, you know, it's a 7-yard gain for them, which is, you know, obviously not ideal. But when you have your 280-pound defensive tackle running the football like that and being able to change directions, those little guys, you know, they don't like getting hit that much from those big guys. So I'm sure that kind of built on in the wear and tear of the game. But that's how we want our guys playing, and that's why we do the line drill, especially is you know, it simulates game situations.
Yeah, I like that drill, Coach. And for those guys who couldn't see it, you know, you had your guys coming out from underneath underneath the chute there, and basically immediately changing direction, going right or left, running down that line with the backside in, shuffling, kind of like you were talking about. You know, when I was early in my days as a defensive line coach, we would do stances and starts every day, but you know, those guys are sprinting 5 yards upfield. And I don't know if you would ask me why we were sprinting 5 yards upfield. I don't really know. I mean, I guess it kind of looks cool, but you know, whatever, we're just getting off the ball, baby. And then you kind of realize, well, I'm yelling at them in the game for running upfield, but here I am practicing it. And, you know, we want those guys changing directions, you know, on a dime and working flat, kind of like what you're repping there. So I think that's a great point when you are doing that get off drill, is to have them change direction pretty quickly so that they're working that skill.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of our drills that we will rep every single week at least. To me, it's especially in the off season for our younger guys. It can be an everyday drill. I mean, that's football and defensive line play. You win in those first few yards. So I think it's huge for our guys to be able to read and react and get going. But as we get into it here, our takeoff now we're thinking more of our speed stance, right? We're thinking third down. We got to get after the quarterback. So I'm going to have more of a narrow base. My back foot toes relate to my front foot heel. Both of my heels are off the ground because I have all of that weight on that front hand. We try to elongate our stance, but I still want that butt up a little bit so you can explode out of that stance. Our feet are pointed forward and our off hands ready to execute a plan. And same thing with our alignment. It's going to be a credit card alignment, being able to take up all of that ball and be a great threat on third down. And then in our takeoff, we also want our guys to have a plan, whether, you know, you're hitting with a speed rush, a power rush, or setting up the counter rush. We want our guys to have a plan every single time they line up in their takeoff stance. And essentially, you know, when we get going and we take off, we're always thinking that we got to work half of a man. It's huge. We don't want our guys running down the center of these big guys that are going to try to hold us up. We want to work half of the man and be able to win on that half, whether it's inside or outside. A little bit about takeoff is that, to us, every successful pass rush plan begins with a great takeoff. Whether you're going speed, whether you're going power, I think if you have great takeoff, you can threaten offensive lineman in so many ways and get him out of his comfort zone that, you know, he's going to either mess up or you're going to win right off of the edge with your natural ability to move faster than a 300-pound man kicking backwards. I think that's huge. So we tell our guys to key the man in front, especially that outside knee, and really peripher the football. And obviously we still move on movement. That's why we do it every drill like that. And for our guys, in the simpler terms, it's just pick a spot 3 to 4 yards behind the offensive lineman's outside foot and beat them there. We want to explode out of our stance, emphasizing gaining ground with low pad level, getting vertical, and being able to execute the plan at that 3 to 4 yard spot. So the way that we continue to teach our takeoff is we run a drill called close the space, and we're just going to line in 3-point stance here with the offensive lineman in front of us, a scout team offensive lineman. And that first phase, he's just going to backpedal, and we're going to move on movement, gaining ground, and we're just going to tag the hip of the offensive lineman as fast as you can, and understand that we got to gain ground with every step, so we're not stepping underneath ourselves or anything like that. And then as we get into phase 2, we're going to now execute kind of our plan there in our pass rush. So when we get to that spot where we're tagging the hip, now we're rotating our shoulders, we're stepping through with the inside foot, pointing the toe where we want to go, and being able to execute our plan and bend and get towards the quarterback, as you can see right there. But that's really our takeoff for the most part. Always telling our guys to gain ground vertically and be ready to have pressure on that front foot so you can. Moving to our next part now here is striking and separating. And in this, we want to be able to have fast, violent, and precise hands and in our hips and in our movement in general. What we tell our guys in sense of a target is that near shoulder pad tip and sternum when you're working in shade. And in our defense, for the most part, we're going to be working some type of shade. So we always tell them that's our aiming points. And our strike in general, we want to work from ground to pads, having our hands above our eyes, elbows tight, our thumbs up, and we're going to punch with the palms, and most importantly, violently every time. And in our separation phase, now we're going to lock out our elbows while rolling our hips and feet with our head and our gap forward, knocking back our guys. So being able to strike guys off the ball, you know, reset the line of scrimmage and separate off these guys to set up a great escape is huge. And how we practice that is our strike progression. And I know coaches do this in a bunch of different ways, but our first part of this drill is we're just going to be focusing in our progression. Our first part is just ground to pads. How fast and efficient can get your hands to that offensive scout team player. You can do this on a sled. You can do it on each other. That's why we really love it. I know some guys do it on a wall as well. But how fast can you get your hands from the ground to the offensive lineman's chest? And in doing so, we start in a 6-point stance. You know, our hands, our fingertips are in the ground, our knees are in the ground, and our toes are tucked into the dirt. We want to still emphasize maintaining a flat back through it all. So it's most likely game realistic, like you're coming out of your stance, and we're just working our hands as fast as we can and as precise as we can. Thinking about efficient movements here. So our guys are just going to go ahead and move on movement there and strike the bag low to high, hands above our eyes. As you can see, 57, Travis Jones, and 98 do a pretty good job here. 98's Luwal, who we talked about earlier, and just striking the bag as fast as we can. We're not really worried about rolling our hips right now. We're really just focusing on our hand violence. Now, in this next part of the progression, the 6-point extension, now we're thinking about activating the hips and exploding through our hips. And now this is the one where you're going to finish, you know, most likely on your chest after you strike the bag and get our hips all the way through there. And that's how you progress into our hip activation part of the drill. Then we'll be working we call it fit to drive. And they're going to start off, this is kind of our new part of our strike progression here. And they're going to start off with one knee down, and similar kind of to a stance when you have 1 foot up, 1 foot back. And they're going to go ahead and start. You can start them fit in on the bag, or you can start them in a 5-point stance with your foot, knee, foot, and hand down. But they're going to go ahead and strike the bag. And the biggest thing here we teach is being able to activate through the hips and explode through your hips and maintain low pad level and keep a base. This is a newer drill for us, and these are kind of our younger guys right now doing it. But the reason I like it, I like 96's approach to it. His hands are above his eyes. He's striking with an efficient movement. I think he'd do a better job of keeping a base and false stepping. But this is a newer drill that we've started in our strike progression to give them that, you know, that game realistic movement at least. And then from there, coming out of a 3-point stance now in the strike progression to complete the progression, you're going to go ahead, strike from ground to pads, low to high, and then tear off at the end with the violent escape, stacking the offensive lineman's hips and finishing in a football position.
So that, let me ask you about your fit to drive drill. I really like that, and I think that's a great drill. Again, for those guys who are listening, you're starting with one, you know, on one knee, and coming up and striking that hand shield of the offensive lineman in front of you. You know, you said that was sort of a new drill. Was that a skill that you guys felt like y'all were, you know, kind of that was like a bit of a hole in the progression there that you felt like, you know, that's what that drill kind of did for you, is sort of clean that kind of stuff up with your base? Like what made y'all seek that drill out and fit that into your progression?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was we were just looking for different ways where we can activate the hips and bring our hips in our strike progression, because you have a lot of guys that can get your hands on quick, but we want to be able to really bring our base, our strong base, but also activate our hips and get into that separation part of the strike progression there. So I think that was really a reason that we sought it out. And then we tried it out a few times and we liked it. We liked how I think our guys liked the drill as well. You know, if you throw the same drills at guys for a long time, you know, they might catch themselves going through the motions at times. So we're always looking for new ways to develop guys with different drills and being able to get our guys excited about our individual period. You know, our individual period isn't a joke. We're not gonna go through. Obviously, we're gonna keep to our fundamentals and our technique, but we want our guys to get excited about our individual period, and I think our guys really do once we start incorporating our new drills and everything like that.
Yeah, for sure, definitely,
no doubt. But next, got a little bit here on block recognition, and the biggest thing in here is we call it read the triangle. And what that is our first key is going to be our man on. And he's either going to give us a high hat or a low hat, right? And if you're thinking high hat, you're thinking pass. If you're thinking low hat, you're thinking more of the run game. Then you go ahead and now you're thinking, is he giving me a hat to or a hat away? So if he's hat to means obviously he's going to have some type of blocking scheme at me. Hat away, you know, he could be down blocking. He could be arcing me, you know, and you could be a read player, or really why we call it read the triangles. We're going to get our eyes snapped down the line of scrimmage if we get a hat away, and we're looking for that backside puller. Obviously, that's big in offensive gap schemes, and whether they're trying to run power or they're trying to run different schemes here. We're always understanding if we're going to be a midline or a squeeze player. So a midline technique player for us it's going to be, both of those are going to be scheme dependent, but a midline technique player for us is essentially what a lot of guys probably think of as a spill player, but we don't go ahead. We don't teach the spill technique of wrong arming. We go ahead and teach midline technique. And what that is as that backside puller is coming to you, you're going to focus in on that shoulder pad tip sternum of the inside part of that backside puller. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to strike him low to high, lock out, and then you're going to tear off inside. So you still understand that you're fitting this thing up inside and you have your linebacker, your safety filling outside. But we want to make this, and the reason we do it is we want to make the running back's job as hard as possible, because we know he's reading that puller, and he's either going to, if we go ahead and we wrong arm and we make an easy decision for him, he's going to hit that thing vertically. And that's the last thing that you want in the run game, right? So we tell him to midline it, as well as what that does is that lengthens the edge. So he has less of a place to cut up, and it gives us, our backers and our safeties, more time to read, run, and get to where they got to get to. And then our squeeze technique is now we're the edge of the defense, right? And that backside puller's coming, or that tight end's coming to kick us out, and we got to stay outside of it. So my hips are going to be square, and I'm really striking either the sternum to outside half that backside puller. And we want to be able to anchor down, strike, separate, and keep our hips squared towards really parallel towards the line of scrimmage, and be able to set the edge. Now, when looking at the backside puller as well, you got to be able to read their tempo and the depth of the puller, because in these schemes now, sometimes they're going to be pulling for you. Sometimes they're pulling up short. Sometimes they're trying to log you inside. So I think the biggest thing is understanding what scheme you're going to be getting. And in that, if the puller is not coming for you, then you got to be able to read the mesh point. And when reading the mesh point, you're really looking at the running back shoulders, depending on, scheme dependent, if you're the dive player, if you're the quarterback player. And we tell our guys, when you get that down block or you get that arc block, you want to really replace that hip of the tackle with a quick 2 shuffles, and then being able to read, either you're getting backside pull or you're getting read by the quarterback. And then obviously you want to keep your hips square. You want to go ahead and take the running back, depending on what we're running and everything like that. But other than that, a lot of the man-on blocks you're going to get is you're going to get drive, reach, cut off, double team, scoop, pin and pull, hinge, arc, cut. We practice them all. And I think that's huge because we're independent now. So we're an independent. Being independent, we're going to play all different types of football teams, including triple option. So that's kind of a whole game plan in itself. But we pretty much see in the run game all different types of blocks, other than, your traditional high school wing T, I guess. But really, playing all these different teams, whether they come out in 11 personnel, 11S10, or 12 personnel, we're seeing everything. But so we got to make sure that we practice that through the week, and our guys do a good job of understanding that. But
yeah, Coach, let me stop you right there and ask you a couple of questions about some of that stuff real quick. First of all, talking about pullers and reading the puller, I think that's a great point. And I think that, one of the things that I always tell my guys is if that puller's coming for you, he's going to be looking at you.
No doubt.
They're not smart enough they don't, quarterbacks look off safeties, pulling guards don't look off defensive ends. They're coming. If he's coming to get you, he's looking at you. Now I think that the technique that you're talking about with the midline technique, that's an interesting one. I used to, again, starting out was a long arm guy and taught that, but it moved on from that. And I think a lot of people have, for a lot of different reasons. You named one there. You're trading one for one. You end up trading one for one when you do that a lot of times. But so I'm just curious, with you guys using that technique where he's ripping now inside, do you get some where instead of that guard now trying to kick you out, they'll instead try to log you, get on that outside and wash you down, and then run off that guard's butt that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that you see in college football a lot today, a lot more. I know when I was playing, it was the same thing as you. We're going ahead, we're wrong arming that thing, and we want to, blow it up. But I think today, when we teach this technique, you do see sometimes those guards are going to log us, and that's why we really stress the importance of making contact with them, right? And being able to know that we are going to impact the guard pulling on us, whether he's trying to get my outside pad or he's trying to kick me out traditionally. But we want to make sure that we make contact if that guard's responsible for us. And I think you make a great point with understanding the eyes of the guard as well. But it's also the same thing with tight ends now, right? Tight ends come flying across. Sometimes they're going to kick you out. Sometimes they're going to log you. Sometimes you got to get outside for the naked game, get to the flat. So what the midline technique helps us is we're going to go ahead and we're going to make contact with that tight end no matter what. And we tell our guys to make sure we hit that tight end if he's not blocking us and he's going out for a naked for a quick flat route and just being able to affect. Now you can't grab or anything like that, but definitely make contact and be able to disrupt the play.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the key is affecting that puller, like you said, and get him off his path.
Absolutely. And then next, we got a little bit about escapes here. And in our escapes, our hands are always going to be violent. I mean, that's something that we preach and what we teach is you can get them with a little push-pull-rip escape or a snatch arm over. And that push-pull-rip, that's more used in a sense of that offensive lineman is trying to get great position on me, whether he's reaching or he's cutting me off. He's really trying to get to my outside or my inside pad, and we got to be able to lock out that gap arm and rip off with that inside arm and being able to make that thing cut back up. And now that's something that, you kind of flirt the line of do you tell him to just go get vertical or do you tell him to try to get off clean and win? But I don't think vertical is really the word. I think creating knockback is. I think no matter what, if that offensive lineman is trying to get to my outside pad, if I can create knockback and put him in the backfield, then that running back's got to be able to cut it up inside you. And you were able to make a play by getting off the block with a great ripper, arm over escape. And now our snatch arm over technique, that's more, you're getting man down blocks or you're getting a base block, a double team. And now, you're going to be able to fight pressure with pressure, lock out, strike and separate, lock out, fight pressure with pressure. And now that he's trying to power through you so you can snatch down and away from the body and be able to punch that backside arm over and clear your hips and feet and make sure your shoulders get skinny and be able to stack that offensive lineman and finish in a football position. So escape is something that we're going to practice, every single day or really every single week, depending on the blocking schemes that we're getting. So a little bit of a progression here again is that we just start our guys up in a fit position against our offensive lineman scout team. And then on movement, they're going to go ahead and they're going to separate. They're going to lock out. And then depending on what our offensive linemen are doing, they can be coming off, giving them great pressure and trying to drive them off. Our guys are going to be able to lock out, snatch, arm over escape. You can see 98 does a pretty decent job here. That's Lou Wall, and he's able to sit down behind the offensive lineman and stack his hip and get in a good football position, ready to change direction. And that's exactly what we do with the next part of our progression is that we go ahead and we change direction. We go from escape to a line drill. Right here, they're working a push-pull-rip, though. As you can see, the offensive linemen are now reaching for that outside or that opposite that outside hat in this one, and they're trying to get around you and get great position, be able to lock out that gap arm, go ahead and rip with that inside arm, getting off clean and be able to finish down low in a football position. But from there, we go from escape to the line drill. So it's the same deal here. We're gonna be fit in. Great low pad level flat bag. My eyes are up. Go ahead and lock out, separate, and then being able to get off the block according to what the block read is. And then go ahead and I'm giving a low hat here to the left, just like in our line drill, so they can go ahead and change direction and give us that aggressive finish that we're always looking to in our fundamentals. But so from there, we really break it down to a drive, escape, tackle now. So now instead of me pointing in direction, we go ahead and if we want to be able to practice our tackling technique, which is something that we do, and I think defensive line coaches in general should always practice tackling. I mean, it's a fundamental of football, and we like to practice profile tackling, being able to have great leverage, understand leverage, and club and wrap violently and bring the hips and feet through with our head on the correct side. But right here, you can see our buddy Dalmont. He's from South Carolina, the king of South Carolina here. He's locking out. Being able to tear off this block down and away, and finishing. He's got to get his head on the other side here, but he's finishing with driving his hips and his feet. So that's just the little things that we do, and being able to see it reflect in a game. right here we're playing Cincinnati, and this is really, I think working escapes is great because it really helps in the run and pass game. So you're going to be able to see our guy here, 57, Travis Jones. He's a Connecticut kid from New Haven, and he's a big guy that's going to help us out this year. But you can see the snatch arm over escape here. He's getting that play action read. So those guys are coming off, but not totally, and he's be able to go ahead and snatch escape. He punches that backside arm through, clears his hips and feet, and he finishes getting a sack. So it's I think escapes are something that also help in, run and pass game. And this is the same picture here. Different picture, same result though, is Travis against our in a 3 technique, and he's going against Indiana guard here, a Big Ten guard. He's able to lock out. There's a quick snatch escape, and now he's getting pressure on the quarterback right away. No man wants to get tackled by a 300-pound, 330-pound defensive tackle. That's a big body landing on you. So those are just ways that we work our escapes. And Coach, that's what that's kind of where I'm at. I got it tonight. I know, I didn't want to talk too much. Hope I didn't take too much of the time, but that's kind of the base fundamentals of how we see the game so far. And I know I could talk a lot longer, but I know you have kids.
Oh, hey, look, here's that was perfect. And here's what I'm thinking as I'm watching that. Okay. Because this took me, again, I'm thinking back to my early days as a defensive line coach. And this is what took me way too long, and where you're already ahead of the game as from a lot of young defensive line coaches, is that you don't have a progression with how you're teaching things. You just kind of pull things a la carte and teach them because you need to do them. Like, I know I need to work on escapes, and I know I need to work on get offs, but like, it all has to fit in some type of linear progression, which is what you just showed. So if I'm a young coach and I'm watching this or I'm listening to this and I don't have that down yet for my coaching progression, there it is. I mean, I can rip this straight from you, and that's my coaching progression. Obviously, I'm going to tailor it to how I want it, and maybe how how I say things, or how my defensive coordinator wants things to be done. But I think that's a great example of how to work from the ground up, how to work your progression as a defensive line in order to be successful and be really good at the fundamentals.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's something that, coaches here have helped me with, and as well as even just speaking on our coaching network. I know, you work closely with them. It was something that I kind of realized watching everyone else. And for any young coach that's listening or watching, you got to try this stuff out, man. You got to be able to, work it in practice. And I think even being able to present and talk on these different types of podcasts and different clinic tapes is huge. I mean, I know how much it's helped me over the past few months, especially with COVID, and there's no coaching convention. There's no as many buzz talks, but for anyone listening, if you ever want to talk defensive line play or just football in general, feel free to hit me up. I'm on Twitter at @coach_Carrezola. So I had to give myself a quick shout out to see if I can gain some followers. No, I'm just kidding, man. But I love talking ball with anybody. It doesn't matter if it's, it doesn't matter if it's NFL, D1, CFL, D2, D3, high school. It doesn't matter to me. I look to grow from everybody. So I appreciate, you having me on here and being able to talk some ball.
Absolutely. Coach, I'll tell you this about our audience here. We got a really good audience that will give you a follow on Twitter. But one thing they won't do is, no matter how many times you ask them, they won't give your podcast a 5-star rating or a review. So don't ask that. I try every week.
Oh, man.
Getting that is hard, but following you on Twitter, yeah, they can do that. All right. That's a slight, subtle, passive-aggressive hint to those guys who check me out each week. All right. But we can't let you off the hook that easy. I got a couple questions for you, some rapid fire questions. You're a GA, you're used to thinking quickly on your feet and throwing things together in a short amount of time. So this should be no problem for you. Before we proceed with this, you mentioned, you grew up in Pennsylvania. And so I have to assume that you're a Philly sports fan.
Yep. Growing up.
Okay. So here there's a lot of directions we can take this, but I'll take this because the 76ers most recently were in action, got bounced out of the playoffs. It's coming.
Oh, you heard me, man.
What are we doing? What are we doing with Ben Simmons? You're the GM. What's up with Ben Simmons? You and I both had a better shot at making free throws this season than he did. What's the deal?
Oh, man, you're killing me. I've been trusting the process for the past 5, really my whole life, but especially the whole process. I've been trusting the process for a long time now. And this past playoff experience, it hurt my heartstrings, man. I was here talking to other coaches talking about how the Sixers are going to make the run this year. No LeBron, no Steph. It's the time, baby. But with Ben Simmons, I love watching Ben Simmons play still. I know right now that's not a popular thing, and obviously he's got to take more shots. It's easy for me to say. It's a lot harder for someone to do. I'm not going to pretend like I can go ahead and go out in the NBA and go hit some shots, but I think it's going to be an interesting offseason no matter what they do. I've been hearing talks about trying to get Damian Lillard. I've been seeing all these different things, but I think they can go in different couple directions if they need to. I'm not for running Ben Simmons out of town just yet. I mean, the kid's 24 years old, but I think obviously he's great in other areas as well. It's just that we got to get a little more confidence shooting that basketball.
Yeah, get him to a sports psychologist or something. I don't know. Okay, here's your next question. Staying with that, so let's talk about your Philadelphia Eagles. You got rid of Carson Wentz. How do you feel about Jalen Hurts moving forward? Do you think he's the guy for the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. I did love watching Carson Wentz play. I was a fan of Carson, so it was kind of tough to just let him go like that. It was unfortunate, but I think, obviously Jalen Hurts is an extremely talented quarterback. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You see what he's done at his college career, and you see a little bit of what he does now. And I think that, with the different coaching staff now, they can kind of build a plan for him. So I think there's definitely potential for him to be the guy. It's just a matter of, how they use him and how everything works. But I think, drafting Devontae Smith is a huge part of that. I think that's going to be a big piece for them as well.
Okay, what fan base do you like the least out of the NFC East? You got Washington, you got the Giants, and of course you got the Cowboys. Coach, tread lightly on this question.
Oh, man.
Knowing that I'm a Cowboys fan and you're talking to a lot of Texas coaches, but I don't care. It won't hurt my feelings if you blast this. But here's the floor. Least favorite fan base from the NFC East.
It's tough, man. That's a tough one. I almost want to say Giants because I'm so close to New Jersey and I get all the talk from my friends. My brother lives in New Jersey now, so he hears a lot of it too. I almost want to say Giants, but I mean, I feel like to tell you that I'm a Philadelphia sports fan and tell you that the Cowboys aren't on that list they throw me out of, the 215. They throw me out of Philadelphia there. So
I got you. Yeah. And let's just hope, with both of us, me being a Cowboys fan and you an Eagles fan, that the division is not a laughing stock like it was this past year and like it's been the last couple of years. Okay, we're going to switch gears a second. You mentioned how, this last month of, you've been making a lot of trips to the airport, picking up recruits, driving them back to campus. So I imagine as a GA, you've become sort of an expert at making small talk with guys that you don't know. So we have some really awkward dudes that listen to this podcast that really can't talk themselves out of a paper sack. Some of them need help getting a date, whatever the situation might be. Maybe some guys need some help making, interviews or whatever. So give us your tips on making small talk without it being awkward. Go ahead.
Oh, man. I think the biggest thing is find something relatable with the people that are coming in. Obviously, I got a little bit of an advantage because they want to check out Uconn and everything like that, picking them up from the airport. But I think, man, you just can't be nervous. You kind of just got to let it fly and see where the conversation takes you and being able to talk about a little bit about your experience and wanting to know about other people's experiences, I think is huge. And it's not something I was all natural at either. Geez, you ask my girlfriend, she probably thought I was the most nervous first date out of them all. But I think you kind of just got to let it go, man, and being able to, it helps me a lot being able to do things like this. I knew, especially in an interview, on an interview basis, doing the Art Coaching Network and now being on this, I feel like I've gotten better at it just with doing it twice. So I feel like I'm getting more prepared with it as well. So definitely practice a little bit before.
Yeah, I think open-ended questions, avoiding yes or no questions, finding that common ground. You're from Philadelphia. Hey, I'm from Texas. We're both NFC East fans. Let's talk about our teams. See, there we go. And now we're talking for the next hour about, Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, and we're off and running. Okay, here's the next question here. All right, so you're on campus. You're showing recruits around. Like, what's your go-to line when you got to recruit and you're showing, you're showing around campus, like, do you have like a joke or maybe a go-to line that you always use when you're showing recruits around? I'm thinking back, like, if you've ever seen the program where they're showing them around and they bring him into the stands, in the stands, into the stadium, they got his number up on the screen. What's kind of your go-to line when it comes to talking to recruits?
Yeah. I would say when I'm showing the campus, especially Uconn is kind of its own college town here. You kind of drive through the sticks a little bit and then it kind of comes out and boom, it hits you. It's Uconn. It's a beautiful campus. We're about, just for those who don't know, we're about an hour and a half away from Boston and 2 hours away from New York City, kind of in that middle point with being 30 minutes from Hartford. So the thing that I always tell our recruits, at least, is that Uconn has everything that you need is at Uconn. Anything that you want to do, you can go out and travel to go do. If you want to go check out Boston, you can do that. If you want to check out New York, or you want to go get more of the city life in Hartford, you can do that as well. But that's my biggest thing is just letting guys know that everything that you need to be successful is right here. And I think when you're able to come up and see our facilities and see that we're top public, education in the world, I mean, that's something that I think is a great hybrid, a little bit of a hybrid for us, Bob, being able to play against great opponents as well.
All right, last question here. We'll get you out on this one. We got to close out talking food. This is a D-line podcast, and you know where I'm going with this one probably. You being from Pennsylvania, so if I'm coming back home with you and you're taking me around your spots, where's the spot to get the best cheesesteak? Where are we going?
All right, so I'm not going to take you the tourist location. I'm not. I can't do that. I got to take you to more of a little bit of a place. I'm going to take you to Steve Prince of Steaks. And there's actually multiple little spots of Steve Prince of Steaks, but I'd be doing you wrong if I take you anywhere else, man. You gotta, next time you come up and you bring your kids to Sesame Place, we'll go ahead and we'll grab a cheesesteak together and we'll make it happen.
Man, sign me up for that because I'm all about some cheesesteak. Okay, well, Coach, like I said, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, and I want to wish you and the Huskies the best of luck in 2021.
I appreciate that, Coach, and good luck to you guys as well. And I'll be listening, all the way through.